Hello, everybody. This is going to be potentially the first, I guess, standalone episode of Web News. I think maybe we've done this in the past potentially, but basically, Mike and I kind of thought we wanted to basically like bring back Web News. If you don't know what that is, it used to be a little segment on the end of each episode where we would talk about just something that was not necessarily developer related, but at the very least, sort of like tech related. So like developer adjacent or tech adjacent. And then the episodes were getting a bit too long, so we cut that. I think we did do it standalone for a little bit, and then we kind of killed that to focus on the episodes. But we thought that we should have something that has a bit of video content where you can see who we are. I mean, just straight up because everybody else who's in this space does this, and we're just sort of like voices in the ether. So this is kind of just us trying this out for the first time. I tried to blur my background. I tried to brighten myself enough, and it wasn't great. But we decided to hit record anyway. So I'm gonna try to improve and enhance slowly. But anyway, this topic for this week, and these are going to be little short segments. We're not, these aren't going to be super long or anything like that. But the topic of this week is actually AI classic, but it's more zoomed in on the fact that we wanted to have a discussion on how fast AI is moving and how it's really, I mean, I'm saying it's like virtually impossible to keep up with AI. It's a little bit bizarre in that way because, I mean, AI is like pretty well brand new. It's like this new way to do things. And already Mike's like, hey, like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried this? And I'm like, I kind of am still getting settled with ChatGPT a little bit. So, Mike, like, why don't you kind of like dive into what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, just like I really try to keep up with this stuff quite frequently. I'm watching live streams when OpenAI does their live streams sometimes. I'll keep up with like the Google stuff that's going on with the Flash models, and I'm keeping up with all the open source models all over the place and the politics behind that. Like there's just so many different verticals to keep up with that even for me, that's someone that kind of prides myself on staying up to date. I'm starting to lose the thread, right? Like recently, MCPs became super popular. Like that's a protocol essentially for interfacing with AI from a services perspective. So like GitHub, for instance, has an MCP server that allows AI to access, like create commits on its own, create pull requests, merge in stuff, check your entire code base, do stuff with services, right? So this just came out, I think it was in 2024, Anthropic created it. And then all of a sudden it had all this traction and everyone's creating MCPs. I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and then like new models are coming up, and then all of a sudden like different IDEs are starting to integrate different models. So now like there's this IDE war of Cursor versus Windsurf versus VS Code that are just trying to one up each other in how they're integrating all these models into their like code editor, how it's making it super easy to write code without even having to write code, how it's making it easier to edit the code, how it's making it easier to run the code. Like there's just a million different services that are integrating the models, and then the models themselves are being updated at the rapidest pace I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, like recently the ChatGPT image generation came out, and that's using a completely different image generation model than was before. Like I'm not gonna try to explain it right now. I did look into it a little bit, but again, it's one of those things I can't understand deep enough because I'm trying to understand everything on a surface level at least. And it goes through the cracks. Like how is it possible that the ChatGPT model all of a sudden can now do text perfectly, pretty much? Like when all the other models have been struggling with it. Well, it's a completely different way of generating images. Like it's not doing the same thing as it was, like it's not using a diffusion model or whatever. It's not using something that Dolly was using. So it's a completely different way. So now it's a new paradigm. We're in a new paradigm all of a sudden of image generation. And then that makes us a new paradigm of video generation. And then there's song generation. Agents. Like I'm just saying words at this point, but they all tie back into this conversation of like I can't keep up with it. I think what I kind of want to get from this discussion is maybe a way to keep up with it in some way. Maybe this is something for the audience actually. Maybe these web news can be us speaking to the audience a little bit because this is going to be more personal because it's video and stuff like that. If you know a good like newsletter to stay that keeps us up to date, or a good like a website that has all this information coming at you in real time without me having to crawl X and all that. I'd love to know that, because I'm at a point where I've lost the thread. Like I don't know what to keep an eye on. Obviously, I'm focused more on developer stuff, but I also want to make sure that I understand what's going on as the overall scope.
Well, I mean, I'm in the same boat. Like, I think I'm arguably even worse off than you in a way, because like I mean, you guys are talking about cursor and things like that, and like I understand what all that stuff is once you tell me. So it's not like we're completely going so far away from the basis, like the basis of what things are, where it's like it's still the same like trunk of the tree. We're just like consistently adding new branches. But it's like if I'm a bug climbing up the trunk of the tree, it's like I'm still on the trunk, and there's like 15 branches now, and then they just keep going. And this is something that like I definitely struggle with, because I mean, and you struggle with too, because we have, I mean, day jobs. Like, we run a web development agency, we do a podcast, we're doing like a bit of a little show now, we make content in general, written content, things like that. We work with writers and stuff to continually like make more content, things along those lines. And it's a very inorganic, or we're unable to organically learn everything, because at the same time it's also there's also like I don't even know what you'd call it, but it's like the voice in our head saying like, hey, like don't always attach yourself to screens, don't always be plugged in. And it's like, well, hang on, have we heard about any of the world news going on? We have some crazy tariffs and things like that, and it's like that's changing. I remember I've made like moves, like investment moves, or talked about making investment moves, and in the middle of having a conversation with a friend, this is very casual, this is just kind of like like shooting the shit basically about investing and dealing with the tariff situation, he's like, oh, everything's on pause right now. And I'm like, the tariff situation has just changed live when we were talking about it. It's supposed to be this like earth shattering, economic shattering thing. And then also it's like, by the way, keep up with all this AI stuff, do your day job, but then also have like these AI tools really kind of change things a lot. Like, think about this. So like I'll use ChatGPT, and I'll also use Copilot, and I mean the consumer version of Copilot that comes with Windows. I will use those two AIs to help me with creative things, to help me with coding, and they're a part of my workflow now. Like, I'll have for example, I have the ChatGPT app on my phone. If a client sends me a quick DM and says, hey, is this possible, and I'm not sure off the top of my head, instead of me Googling it and then having to check the data stuff and stuff like this, I'll ask, like, ChatGPT, like, hey, like, what are the options? Is this possible? Does it require a paid plugin? Things like that, like things that my client want to know. And that's a part of my workflow. And then now to just be like, well, you could have AI like have a different agency, and you could have like AI do this and AI do that. And it's like, my workflow was, I don't want to use the word disrupted, but it was disrupted last year by AI, and I've gotten used to having that in my workflow. But now it's like, oh, also like uproot your workflow. And it's like, in the name of efficiency from a personal perspective, how do I consistently upkeep and maintain and update my workflow at this rate? Obviously, we do need to, update your workflow occasionally to remain productive or increase productivity better more. But how do we do that when there's all these tools? And also, I'd like to say this too. We also have like a lot of these AI things are services in and of themselves. So like, am I now supposed to also budget $200 to $500 a month for all these AI tools as well? And like, I understand that some of these tools are able to like work with one another, or like some of these are generic and they're able to do multiple things. But it's like, we've also fully entered the subscription era, right? We've been in that era for quite a while, where everything's a subscription. And then obviously AI takes a lot of like data center time, a lot of computing power. And so they're all going to be subscriptions from a business, but also from a practical perspective because of all the data center time that it's using. So where are we at? Like, what are we supposed to do to keep up with all this stuff? And like, I hesitate to even bring this up. I know we've like talked about this. I'm bringing it up in sort of this like pre-decided conversation context, because it sounds like I'm whining. It's like, oh, Matt, just kind of shut up and like just keep up, do your job kind of thing. I understand that perspective. I understand it's just sort of like, hey Matt, like, all these tools are coming out. It's great. If you don't want to use them all, just kind of shut up. But it's also like, yeah, but we also have to kind of consider the market a little bit, right? Where how many people are doing the same thing as us? Where, I mean, imagine a corporation that's slow moving, maybe a large corporation that's slow moving. They're not going to adopt all these tools every 10 minutes. And maybe startups are gonna do it, but even then, if the startup is like 10 plus people, you have to have systems and procedures in place in order to make sure things are working. And to say, well, just change your system, change your system, change your system. I mean, on a monthly basis, and not just change the system, possibly throw the whole system out and reinvent it. It's like that comes with an inherent risk of that system, the new system not working as well. It's untested, things like that. So I just don't know how realistic, just kind of speaking, off the cuff here, just don't know how realistic it is to keep up with all these AI things. It's cool, it's great from a tech as a tech enthusiast. I like the idea of all these new AI things coming out all the time. But I do see an issue brewing in that, how fast can everybody go and try these things? And just as a really brief kind of end note for my side on this discussion, I see people that will say on social media like they're a guru or they're a master of these AI tools. No, you're not. Because like even the baseline sort of like ChatGPT ones, like maybe you're like approaching like master status with ChatGPT, because it was like the baseline one, it's like still there. Like, yeah, I'm still using it. Maybe you've like mastered it to that degree. But even that platform's changing repeatedly and very quickly. And like, I mean, something as simple as adding projects, like project management inside of ChatGPT, where you can say, hey, I'm starting a project, and then all the chats in the project, and you can add parameters to the project and all these things. And it's like, I understand that's a small thing, but I keep saying I'm going to use it and I don't, because I have to like get work out. I have to like finish things. And so it's like, I'm not going to like take time out of my now normal chat, like AI workflow, to play with this thing unless I know for sure that it's going to benefit me. And I just don't have that time. I don't know about you, Mike, but
Yeah, like I try to use the latest tools as much as possible. Like I was an early adopter of Cursor, at least when it switched to being more general purpose rather than just React, and it has changed my workflow quite a bit, to the point where I can confidently say that I use it for most of my development at this point, like whether to review the code that I write or to write some of the like scripts and stuff that I need to write on the side as well. So it significantly impacted the way I've done things, and if I didn't stay ahead of the curve, I feel like I would be behind from a development, like from a job perspective. You know what I mean? Like this is a job perspective. Now everything outside of that, stuff that doesn't impact me directly in terms of making money, essentially, I do stay a little bit behind. I feel like I'm not using the latest models. I would say, I haven't really tried the new Gemini 2.5 model, which is apparently the best one. Like I just haven't I haven't been able to keep up over there. So I've picked my battle, I think, which is development. I want to make sure that I am ahead on that curve, where whether it be me switching workflows quite often just to make sure that I can do the most optimized thing at the optimized time. And I think it's an important aspect that you need to kind of decide on in your own workflows, because for anyone listening out there, if you're a junior developer or like a seasoned developer, if you're not using them and someone else is on your team, it's putting you in a disadvantaged position a lot of the time. Because if they're twice as fast now, or like even like 25% as fast, 25% faster, then that's them leveling up for free essentially, versus you sticking to your own rates. And then when it comes to like evaluating layoff, we're in terminalist times, people. Like Matt was saying with the tariffs, I don't know what's going to happen. Canada, it's one thing. US, another thing. Worldwide, it's another thing. Most likely, there's going to be some sort of economic turmoil. That I can say for sure. Whether it's like a severe one or a less severe one, I'm not sure. What that will lead to is potential layoffs, and to prevent layoffs and to put yourself in the best position, you have to be a top performer. And so if you're not sticking to the best tools that are available for you at that job and someone else is, that's putting you at a disadvantage. So that's why for myself, that's my logic, is like, I need to be the best person I could possibly be. So I'm going to focus on this stuff, and other stuff will kind of go on the wayside because I just don't have time for it. And that's okay. That's the sacrifice and the choice that I've made. I think there is that sacrifice because, for example, and I think you mentioned it too this year, Matt, I used a lot of ChatGPT for my taxes. So like I would ask it questions, I would feed it numbers, I would tell it to do things in my tax report, and it would do it for me in a pretty consistent way. And then I would send it to my accountant to review, obviously. But regardless, like it helped me a ton with my taxes. And if I don't stay up to date with this newest stuff, then I won't even know that that's a possibility. Right? So like the stuff that I hate to do, taxes being at the top of that list, all of a sudden that's become significantly easier because of these LLMs and because I'm staying up to date with what's going on there. You're doing the same thing. So we can't completely step back and allow this stuff to kind of go on its own, because then we'll lose that ability to be up to date with everything. I do want to say, like, I think that's my perspective. I'll let you kind of rebuttal, or if you have the same one. We are at the kind of our dedicated time frame of about 15 minutes for these. So we're almost out. I hope everyone liked this kind of style of web news. Let us know if you did. But yeah, I'll let you kind of wrap this up, Matt.
Yeah, so I mean, just as Mike mentioned, just logistically, we were thinking of like keeping web news short, kind of like being part of the novelty of the show, and then like not allowing ourselves to go off on too many tangents and that type of thing. So obviously, this one's going to be, I don't know if we're going to have like a hard cut 15 minutes type of thing, or whether it's going to be like, hey, 15 minutes is up, let's wrap it like we're doing now, whatever. We're still kind of sorting this out and see if people even like this type of thing as well. But no, it was, I agree with you, Mike. Like, I mean, instead of me calling the accountant for questions, I was asking it questions. Now I will say this, like full on, is like, I didn't trust the AI to do all my tax stuff. I was still using an accountant. I was just sort of like, hey, I don't understand what's on this line, and got like ChatGPT to explain to me, like, on this form, this is what this means. On this form and this line, this is what this means. So I'm not saying like, oh, just ask ChatGPT to do your taxes. I do not recommend you do that. I recommend you still go and do your due diligence, because let me tell you, like, it took me like an hour to get ChatGPT to just explain what the accountant did for me. So now, again, I mean, and this is like a final thing. Mike and I are not bankers. We're not accountants. We're tech people that have to do accountant stuff because of business accounting, basically. So it's just like it's a side effect. I mean, if there was no accounting laws, we would just be like, cool, we made money, now let's distribute it and pay ourselves, and then we just run off and buy video games or something. That'd be the whole story. Pay rent and then go buy some video games or something, go buy some food. But no, there's more obviously to it, taxes and all the rest of it. And no, that's a good example, Mike, is that I've never used it for that before. I used it now, and now it's like, okay, like I know I can ask this thing questions. At the very least, if I have a follow-up question, I can go to the accountant and be like, I believe this is messed up. Why, like, is this messed up? Can you please explain this to me? And then, you know, they'll do their thing and tell me about what line and what form and all that stuff. But I think that's it. I think that concludes this web news. Hopefully we'll continue with this. Hopefully they get better. No commitments in either, but that's it. I don't really have a conclusion. Go check out our podcast, I guess.
Yeah,
our podcast comes out every week.
Give us feedback. I'm hoping that if we do continue, we'll get the videos production a little bit better and stuff like that. But right now, we just wanted to get this out, so I'm excited for people to see it at least. It'll
Absolutely.
and if you want to listen to, if you're listening to this on your podcast app, this will be available in video form on YouTube. So check us out on YouTube. It's HTML things on YouTube, just like it is on the podcast app. And then you can see our faces for the first time in a while. I know we have posted videos on there before, but we haven't really done this video podcast idea in a long time.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. However we distribute this, if you are listening to this in some sort of audio form, absolutely, Mike is 100% correct. Maybe we'll just do this video. Who knows? First time, just basically hit record. Oh, a bit of Clark Cell influence there. But anyway, all right. We're closing this off. See you later.
Bye.